The Spurs find themselves down 2-0 in this year's NBA Finals, much to the surprise of me and the NBA community online. Personally, I had the Spurs winning in 6, and whilst that's still technically possible, no team in Finals history has come back from losing the first 2 games on their home floor. Today we'll go through how the Spurs are asking Wemby to do too much, how good Cat has been as a frontrunner for the Finals MVP, and why the Knicks' depth has been the key to their dominance in the first 2 games of this series. So, let's get into it. The Knicks have not shut down Victor Wembanyama in the first 2 games. Few teams ever could, but they have managed to limit his effectiveness far better than any other team this playoffs by forcing him to take contested, tough shots. Pull up mid-ranges off the dribble and shots that you don't necessarily, as good as he is, you don't want your 7'5" big man taking. I mean, something that backs this up the best, the closing moments of Game 2 told the story perfectly. Victor Wembanyama committed a costly turnover by making a pass that his teammate wasn't even looking for, and then missed a potential game winner after the Knicks gave them opportunity after opportunity to hit the shot in the final few seconds. It just goes to show how much pressure the Knicks have put on him in the first 2 games and how well they've game planned for one of the best players on the planet. It's no secret that the Spurs are incredibly reliant on Victor Wembanyama on the offensive and defensive end of the ball, but Wemby's felt unsustainable in the first 2 games of this series. Cat's been very, very good, and we'll get onto him much more later, but it just goes to show that Wemby is not as infallible as that OKC series may have made him seem. One of the key reasons for his offensive struggle is that the Knicks are throwing multiple looks at him on the defensive end. They've got Cat on him, Mitchell Robinson on him, and any help defenders have made sure to get in there and really dig their heels. It's hard when he's that physically imposing, but they've shown that it's definitely possible to stop Wemby, and one of the keys to this series will be how he can rebound when the series goes to MSG. Another kind of facet to the Spurs' offensive struggles, and Wemby, if you look at it more directly, is a lack of offensive creativity by the Spurs. A lot of late shot clock Wemby jumpers, as we said, just like the end of Game 2. And overall offensive stagnation, as the Spurs scored just 95 points in Game 1, which just goes to show the Knicks' defensive pressure and the fact that the Spurs are really struggling to create anything offensively. In Game 2, Wemby did eventually find his rhythm. He finished the game with 29 points and 9 rebounds. Obviously, that crucial turnover kind of underscored the game a little bit. But he did find his rhythm, 21 second-half points after that slow start, but it just wasn't quite enough, as a few costly mistakes cost both him and the team the win. And going into New York in this situation is going to be an incredibly difficult thing. The problem for Wemby isn't necessarily that he can't score or he's been, particularly awful. It's just that the Spurs are asking him to solve a puzzle that right now no one can really solve, and how the offensive game plan adjusts as we enter Game 3 and Game 4 in Madison Square Garden. The coaching staff, if anything, need to utilise Wemby, and Wemby needs to hit his spots better. They really just need a different offensive look if they're going to come back into this. Of course, however, a 2-0 lead can't just be blamed on one team underperforming. The other team has to be really good, and now the Knicks are on their 13th consecutive playoff win, looking unfallible. But shockingly to most people, the kind of conduit of this lead has not been Jalen Brunson. It's been Karl Anthony Towns. Everyone expected Wemby and Brunson to be the frontrunners for Finals MVP, but Cat's actually been the best and most impactful player on the floor in both of the first 2 games of this series. He has been dominating the glass, even over Victor Wembanyama, and he's been stretching the Spurs defense, which can be seen in Game 1. He had 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. His ability to box out Wemby is incredible, and I think that's one of the things we've seen with Karl Anthony Towns that maybe differs to the early narratives that surrounded him at the start of his career. I mean, he's always been seen as kind of a softer, defensive player, or a slightly softer rebounder. But coming up in this final series, he's proving everyone wrong. I mean, if you can rebound over Victor Wembanyama, who's going to, let's face it, be one of the most prolific rebounders the game's ever seen, I mean, that is a very good testament to your ability, and it's a grit and a determination that it almost feels like we haven't seen out of Karl Anthony Towns to this point in his career. He continued the Game 1 success in Game 2, having 21 points, 13 rebounds and 4 assists. Obviously the most consistent rock that the Knicks have had on their entire roster throughout the first 2 games. And the Spurs have struggled as well with the size of Cat and the physicality he's shown. Because obviously Wemby is big, he's not the biggest guy, and Cat will outshine Luke Cornet any day. So that's really been the key for the Knicks, has been Karl Anthony Towns. If this series continues, my take is, if this series continues, Karl Anthony Towns will win the Finals MVP, which I really didn't see coming at all. It's not just Cat for the Knicks, though. I mean, the difference right now, one of the main differences right now between these two rosters is the depth. When the Spurs starters are not on the court, they look a bit lost. If you compare that to the Knicks, I mean, we had a position in the game last night, in Game 2, where the Knicks starters, they had 4 starters off the floor, and they were still leading in those, I think it was a 3 or 4 minute span. They don't even have, they have one person from their starting rotation on in a crucial playoff game. And that doesn't matter to the Knicks coaching staff, because they've got full trust in this group. I mean, if they didn't have a fantastic supporting cast, they wouldn't have been able to blitz through the Eastern Conference like they have this year. And they are just showing no signs of slowing down against the Spurs. I mean, they're up 2, and Brunson hasn't really had a major scoring outburst yet. We have Bridges stepping up in Game 2, McBride, Shamet and Robinson have all delivered meaningful minutes whilst their starters have been resting, maintaining or even extending the lead, and San Antonio just can't break them down. As we mentioned, when the Spurs have to sit their starters, they lose offensive flow, efficiency, and they don't have someone like Bridges who can score 20 points in Game 2 with 4 threes. They might have that on the Spurs roster, but if they do, they're certainly not showing up in this final so far. You don't want to overreact. We are only 2 games in, but equally, both of those games are in San Antonio. And going down 2-0 to a Madison Square Garden that hasn't seen a playoff final in almost 26 years, and they haven't seen a championship in like 50. But what is it, 77 is the last time they won a championship? That place is going to be bouncing. I mean, even in San Antonio, it was barely a home court advantage. You saw that. I saw that over a third of the tickets sold were sold to New York fans in San Antonio, and it's when you have a situation like that where every game in the series for the Spurs is going to feel like an away game, you can't understate how important that is. As I mentioned earlier, the Knicks have won 13 straight playoff games on the back of that roster depth and consistency as a cohesive unit. Josh Hart a standout in Game 1. He had 15 rebounds, 6 assists and 4 steals. He's the first player since Larry Bird to average those numbers in a single playoff game, which obviously we're not comparing Josh Hart and Larry Bird, but no matter how you do it, when you're in conversations with that man, you're doing something right. With all that being said, is it over for San Antonio? History says the odds are stacked against them. The Vegas odds give them just a 20% chance to win this series. However, that was the same chance that when they were down 3-2 against the OKC Thunder, it was the same amount of chance. And they've shown they can beat the odds. They've shown they can beat these high-level teams. They do have a punter's chance, but for the Spurs to turn the series around, they'll need more balanced scoring. Someone other than Wemby to step up in crunch time, and their role players to produce at home and on the road. This is my prediction. If the Spurs can steal Game 3, finally get that supporting cast going, we could be looking at a brand new series. Even then, that'll still leave Game 4 in Madison Square Garden, which you would kind of slate the Knicks to win, and then they've got to come back down from 3-1. But if they win Game 3, it is a possibility. They lose Game 3, no teams come back down from 3-0, regardless of the series in anything, let alone the NBA Finals, to what would then be a 14-win straight Knicks team. If they lose, it's over. It is over. But if they can get that supporting cast going, it might happen. It just might happen. That's all we've got time for today. Join me next time as we dive into some baseball ahead of the Game 3 reaction the day after. See you later.